want all you veterans to realize that we have some young students in here. And so try not to corrupt them like you normally would by asking questions that are bad questions. But, all in all, what a couple years it's been, but I am excited to be back. I think we've got it's the right time of year. We've just come off some incredible opportunities ourselves of going to different things, whether it be a Tiger game or Spain or to the UP or just spending time together. We've tried to do more and more where we can make sure we keep our culture where we want it. It's homecoming weekend. There'll be a lot of former players. We got football, basketball, hockey, women's soccer, volleyball. They're all participating. So it is the right time of year. It's basketball's getting to be right around the corner. As for our team in the weekend, last week was memorable, I think, for all of us. It was cool for me, I got to admit, but it was cool to watch our players too. And there's been some myth that we did have pasties for a pregame meal. They had the ability to eat them. Some say that. I think, Jack, you said that you didn't know if we did. Well, we did. And it was really cool because we had two meals at the house that Mariucci built up there and the Beacon House. And it was really a good team building. It was really good to get around some people that, as I said, have no entitlement in their life whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned. We are getting ready for our next exhibition game at Ferris, which is on the 29th. But the group's been good. I did not think we played very well up at Northern. But at the same time, the distractions that I caused, we're sitting there with headphones on in the huddle. We did some things that I think ended up very good, but not real normal. We did that a little bit last year versus Tennessee, but we took it to another level with some of the stoppages, but the chance to get the Big Ten Network to do a game from Marquette, Michigan was unbelievable. We sent in a lot of electricity and lights, and we got it all straightened out up there, but they did an unbelievable job. And it was really good for our players because there were distractions, and that's what you got to live with. But the other things this group has done, besides the Tigers, and we had the camp out, and guys were very involved in that. But now it's time to start playing basketball. I think we've got a good, experienced group. We've got a mixture, We've got Jaden, Jackson, Trey, Frankie, Simone. Those guys have all been juniors and seniors, and yet we've got that core of Book and Jeremy and Cohen as that sophomore class, and then the freshman class is kind of expanded because Gehrig is still a freshman. He's still hurt, but getting a lot better. And then, of course, the three freshmen. So it's been a group that we've played. We've seen great improvements out of some guys. Cohen, Book has had great improvements. Jeremy is coming off the injury, which we are happy that he's getting back to 98% physically. Now it's the fact you haven't played in a year. So he's got some work to do on that, but is making progress. And I think in general, the young kids, all three of them that are playing have been I've been pleased with all three of them all summer. Workouts have been great since this summer. And so I put it all together. It's been 30 years. This will be the 30th year. It's pretty exciting for me. As I said a lot, I love where I am. I love where the institution is rolling to. The fact that I think we're coming together, meaning as an institution. It's been I try not to go above four-letter words, tumultuous, 6, 7 years in a lot of different ways with different things. And of course, the big one is what everybody's dealt with, and that's been the COVID part and getting people back. And we still got people playing in their COVID year. And all those things are about to end. And I want our program to be part of the spokes of of getting this place all back together. Whether it be President, AD, and everything, I think we're headed in the right direction. So better you ask questions than me just kind of rambling about what my team is, and I'll get to what you want to hear, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll let the new edition of you ask a question or two and see if we can keep them from being as corrupt as the older versions of you.
We have mics on both sides.
Tom, I'm wondering for you, I'm over here. Hi.
Hi.
I'm wondering for you, you mentioned year 30. What's the complexity of looking back versus looking forward? Is that a challenge right now when you hit a milestone year?
You know, that's probably a relevant question, but I am totally looking forward right now. Looking back will be for when I retire. But honest to God, I don't know if it's the new hip. I don't know if it's the fact that I like the direction our university is going. I mean, I make no bones about it. I mean, we've put ourselves in some of this position. And some of it was unfortunate on how we got ourselves there. But right now, it's a pretty exciting time. I am not thrilled with where the profession is. I am thrilled about where my team, where my players, and where I am. And I am thrilled about where I think the university's going. So what I got to do a better job of, and I've been a part of all these committees for 20 years, and what I started realizing is I'll still be helpful, but those drag you down too, because it's been depressing the way things have gone where committee members or coaches have no say in anything, to be honest with you. So I'm looking totally forward. New conference, a lot of things, a lot of challenges ahead. That's going to be exciting, and it's going to be nerve-wracking, and it's going to figure out how you travel, and you guys got to figure it out. But those are things that everybody's got to do. So it'll be fun to see what the challenges are. So I'm really looking forward. I won't say to the next 30 years, even though I kind of am, since I'd be my mother's age then, and she looked damn good, man, for her age. I always said that, you know how women are? You are 39 forever. And once you get 90, then you can start talking about your real age. So she's 98, and I figure I got a lot of years ahead of me. Not that many to coach, but the ones that I have to coach, I'm pretty excited about. I really am.
Hey, Tom, you describe your team in almost 3 different groups. Can you talk about leadership, what your team's leadership looks like now, and what you want it to look like in March?
Yeah, I think those are, every coach's nightmare right now is leadership is getting to be harder to find. And I talked to Mateen about it last week. It's just harder to find. I talked to NBA people. I talked to everybody. Talked to Jonathan Smith. Who has a real leader? I think we have some potential. I do think Jeremy someday is going to be, a very, very good leader. But it's going to take some time, and it's hard to lead when you don't have your own game back yet, when you miss that much time. So that'll be one of the issues. I hope Trey and Jaden, who kind of have to learn how to lead. It wasn't in their blood. I'm hoping they continue to improve, and I think they will. But what we have is a team that everybody gets along, and that's why we've done some of the things we've done. If you don't have a leader that is, the flamboyant Cleaves or maybe a Walton or maybe a Draymond or maybe a Denzel, if you don't have that true kind of leader, then you got to do it. They always say the coach has to be it. I don't know if that's possible. So what we decided to do is make sure we get our team involved in a lot of different things, a lot of different activities, so they kind of know each other, right, left, and indifferent. And we are accomplishing some of those things with some yet to come.
Tom, you look at your team, and almost everybody is either literally new or going into some sort of new role or new space. So what sort of effect has that had on the program in the offseason when guys are trying to there's not many guys that can sort of just rest on what happened last year. They're all trying to do something new or different. How has that played into the offseason and the morale, the attitudes, all
Yeah.
that type of stuff?
I think it's been exciting because everybody has a new opportunity. Only Jaden really, Jaden probably Trey a little bit, but he's got a different role now. And as you say, Coop maybe a little bit with a little bit different role. But other than that, people have to take a lot different approach and a lot different role. But they're not a bunch of new bodies. They're not a bunch of new people. A lot of them are people that were here just have new roles. And Shimon and Frankie, they fit in very well so far. And I give credit to our players that are here. You have to embrace that, and like I said all along, I think it's easy to embrace one or two guys. It gets hard to embrace 6 or 8 guys. And so even though some of those guys have new roles, they are here. They're part of the Spartan fabric, and I think they've handled it really well. Trey has been really good trying to lead in that respect. He's done a great job.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You touched on a little bit of this, but how do you think conference realignment and how football seems to drive a lot of decisions impacts college basketball?
Well, football does drive a lot of decisions, and I don't think they're necessarily all bad, and not even bad for basketball. I mean, the realignment, I think, was going to come. I don't think that was just football. It was just going to come. Do I like it? I don't know. I think about it. Someone's going to be first this year, and someone's going to be 18th. I mean, that's, if you're first or 10th, it's manageable. But you're first and 18th, I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know how it'll go for the fans. I don't know how it'll go for the coaches. I don't know how it'll go for the presidents or ADs. There's going to be a lot of different changes in that. But, I still say I look at it that we get an opportunity to play from coast to coast. We get an opportunity. I don't necessarily look at that as a recruiting plus as much. I look at it as our fan support. We have Orange County is one of our bigger areas. Our team played out at Oregon in football, and we had an incredible alumni group out there. I think it's a way to connect our people, which I think is important for all of us. I don't like when the chance to win championships are going to be determined more by the schedule probably than the performance. Because who you play once, who you play twice, who you don't play, where you play them. Those are all going to be question marks that nobody thinks about except us, but it could make a big difference. I can use my own as 3-4 years ago, we played the top 4 teams twice, the bottom 4 teams once. That's a big difference in a swing of where you could be. That's going to happen even more now to a certain extent. So, those things are going to be new, but sometimes new is exciting. Sometimes we want to be stuck in our ways, but we're not going to be able to be stuck in our ways. And so I'm going to embrace that part. I doesn't mean I have to love the fact of traveling from LA to here and getting in at 6 in the morning and getting guys to class and getting my team ready for the next game. But other people have to do the same thing. And so as long as it's pretty much even, I think it's going to be okay. I don't think football, I just get a kick out of everybody that gets mad at football. I never, ever get mad at football because I think they play such a significant part in our athletic department. There's not many schools at this level that football isn't making 75% of the money, 72, 80. So, you have to make some adjustments if that's football oriented. I don't know why necessarily a bigger conference. I mean, they're going to run into the same problems. There's some teams playing down in the SEC this weekend. Someone's going to get knocked right out of the playoffs. Are people ready for that? I don't know, So we're going to beat the hell out of each other when you're in these good conferences like the Big Ten, the SEC. And what will that do? Only time will tell. But I'm not complaining about that. I'm definitely not complaining about football. I actually like it.
Hey, Coach, can you a little specifically talk on Jace Richardson and talk about just how he's grown from the time he's got here on campus to now? He had 11 points, which led the team against North. So can you talk a little bit about how he's just been really growing in a little bit?
He has grown, but he's kind of got a good background. Judd Heathcote used to always tell me when I got the job, anytime you get a chance to recruit a coach's son, get him. The problem when you've been around as long as I have, you get a chance to coach a former player's son. I'm shooting for grandsons, okay? And that's pretty cool. But I also know not only Jason, but his wife coached too. And she coached those kids more than Jason did. And when you think about that, it's kind of in their DNA. And what I've liked about Jace is I've used examples of his dad once in a while, and I make sure he knows he's not here because of his dad. I mean, that's not why we recruit him. He earned his own. If I looked at him right now, skill-wise, he might be ahead of where his dad was, which is pretty exciting, figuring out how he turned out. But, Jace has his own race to run, and he has his own path to get through. And I think right now he can play two positions. He's shooting the ball pretty well. He's got to keep getting stronger. As, Jason, when he came here, he was lighter than Jace. Jason we used to call Bones because he was really skinny. And he turned out okay. So I think Jace is making progress. He's an incredible student. He speaks more languages. I speak two, English and Japanese, and he speaks like 3 or 4. So he's an incredible kid. He's fun to be around, and he's got good pedigree. So I see him making incredible jumps, but yet strength and understanding defensively what he's got to be able to do. He understands it, but doing it, those will be things he's constantly working on.
Tom, on your right over here. Obviously, it's still October, middle October, but when you lose, AJ, Tyson, Malik, all that experience, I know you said you want Jaden to take over as leading scorer, but, when you're looking for, I guess, what's it going to be like when you're looking for that guy where you need a bucket, crunch time, who are you going to go to? Just kind of what your thoughts are on that developing as you go ahead.
Well, I don't think there's any question, you're going to miss Malik because of his experience and his knowledge. You're going to miss AJ for some of the things he did. But Tyson was a guy who could get you a bucket at any time, and there is no question that right now that'll be the biggest question mark to me. Now, we've had teams where you did it by committee over the years. It's easier if you have a guy, and I think, I really believe Jaden has the ability to do it. I think he's, like I said, he's been a career very good three-point shooter. He's athletic enough. He's gained 10 pounds. He's stronger. He's better that way. He didn't shoot the ball well over in Europe, so it gives you a question mark look on it. But it doesn't mean I still think he'll be fine. I think we have more ability to throw it inside right now than we had before. I think we have our 4 men are even better perimeter shooters, which is going to help. And we're just going to have to overcome that. But that's what next week's for, and week after that's for, and the preseason's for. Even Jeremy, he will not be the same player when the season starts that I think he'll be in January because he had a year off. But I have all the confidence that, guys like him and these young guys are going to get better, and that'll help us.
Coach in the aisle here. Kind of going off that, I know you're still figuring out starters. Would you say right now it's more of a matter of having so many guys, or at least 5, 6, 7, who could start right now, or guys who still have yet to show you that?
Yeah, I think if there's a negative for the coach, the negative is not enough guys have separated themselves. That could be good news, you know. '05, it was good news. You know, we played a lot of people, and we ran and we wore teams down, and that was the good news. The bad news is, you know, you're hoping somebody does separate themselves. But when you talk about starters, I could start 9 different people right now in my mind, in our minds. And yet, you know, trying to separate that a little bit, not only in my mind, but also, you know, freshmen are going to take a little time. What they might look good in practice and not necessarily in a game. But, you know, I got Thomas Kelly on my staff, and when Charlie Bell came in, you know, we talked about redshirting Charlie. And Thomas Kelly broke his foot. Week before practice, we started Charlie, and he started, I think, the most games, or close. Jack, you're the old man on that. You would probably know that. But he started as many or more than anybody in this program ever. And so that's what we're looking for right now. Who in the next 2-3 weeks is going to come out and sustain a little bit more and get that opportunity. But I still think having numbers is a positive. I also think having depth is a positive. And I also, knock on wood, and hope we don't have the injuries that most people have every year where somebody goes down. So we'll see on that.
Go ahead. Stop me if it's already came up, just move on.
You're stopped.
You have grudgingly admitted that leadership hasn't been where you've wanted it the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have reason to believe, and I'm sure fears is a big part of it, that that's going to change this year for the next couple of years?
Well, I hope it is, and it does. You know, I think it's important. You know, I think as long as your team gets along, it's not life and death like it used to be. And I say that because I think a lot of people are looking for that right now. You know, our society is less, you know, until we can lead by texting, our society is less receptive of leaders. Sometimes they almost, you know, you got to be really something to lead now because everybody's challenging everybody. Nobody wants to hear anything from anybody, if you ask me. So I got to be aware of that too, and not be so critical of maybe what we don't have. What we do have is a bunch of guys that seem to listen to each other. It's just, you know, you'd like someone to take the bull by the horns, and yet there's plenty of time for that to take place yet. It's not there, but it's not like we have a dysfunctional group. In fact, far from that.
One more and I'm done. This is probably my 30th media day with you. I haven't counted. But my annual What's Tom Izzo's Future question. You used to laugh at coaching at the age of Judd Heathcote and the time that Judd Heathcote did, and now you're approaching 70, and you're still going on 5 a.m. recruiting trips as you did last week. What keeps the engine driving for you?
Well, you know, it's such a loaded question because, you know, people want to use it against you in recruiting and all those things. And but I will say this, when I don't do that, and you hear I don't do that, then you can start predicting and guessing. But until that, all the ones that are out there wanting to use that, bring it on. Bring it on. Any and every day of the week, bring it on. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be better or worse than them. But I mean, those of you that probably had a bad hip, or get it done. I mean, I'm definitely healthier and happier now than I was even 3-4 years ago. So I've been giving a new life raft, I guess. But I think everything weighed a lot on a lot of things that have happened in the last 6-7 years. And looked at it, probably didn't always handle it right, probably didn't, as you look back on things, you try to figure them out. But I think that, I see our place more stable. And unfortunately, that's important to me. A lot of these guys that are wondering what I do and whether I'm going to have as much energy as them, they don't even do half what I do. Because this whole university is important to me. And now I'm learning how to maybe decompartmentalize a little bit and, maybe instead of worrying about the national thing that I'm on, because I'm on all those committees, I'm going to worry about us. And I got a lot left in the tank. Whether they want me here, that's their decision. But as far as for me, I feel great. I thought that they decided to retire me right now. No, they took me up on your bad question. But yeah, they took me out with something. God, thank God, lights. I thought maybe life was ending. I thought maybe I was kidding myself. I'm feeling great, and I said maybe I'm just dying right up here. Lights go out, man.
Hey, Coach, in the back. Last year in Omaha's offense, Frankie ranked in the 89th percentile in points per possession when he's the primary ball handler. Are we going to see him at all this year in those points of the game where he might be able to have a chance to create for the offense?
Well, he'll have a chance to create. I don't know where you get those stats because there's so many analytics people out there, and I think what the analytics people do is whoever they want to push the. Frankie is very good at getting fouled. He's very good at being aggressive to the basket. If you mean, do I think he'll be at the point? No, I don't. Do I think he'll be involved in a lot of things to create and get fouled? Yeah, he will. Now, the difference is, as you saw in the last game, he has to adjust. Where he could go around people at Omaha, he had 2 charges against Northern Michigan because you don't go around the same people at this level maybe that you did at that level. So he's learning too. He was my most consistent kind of player, most efficient in the summer over in Europe. Did not play as well, but neither one of my wings played as well up there. But if you would have been up there, as some of you were, there were a lot of distractions going on in the game, and I think everybody looked at it a little differently. I still think I got a lot out of the game, but I'm not judging anybody by that game. But we hope Frankie gets to the free throw line like he does. That's what I think he was ranked in the top 10 in the country. And that's what he'll do. But primary ball handler, I don't know how you even rate that. And I guess these guys that are doing this stuff, they come up with more stats than Carter got liver pills, and none of them probably make as much sense to me as they maybe to you. But Frankie's got to be an important part. He's got size. He's a pretty good athlete. And I think he's going to have a very good year for us. I do.
Hey, Coach. With all the things that go into college athletics and all the pressure on these players, what are you doing to make sure your players know they're supported and that there's resources for them with mental health throughout the season?
It's kind of funny that everybody asks about the pressures on the players. I read an article. I saw an article on the WNBA. I saw a couple articles on football now. I'm keeping a close eye on football even more than I normally do because I want to see how different people do, how transfers are highly rated teams or where the media screwed up in ranking teams because they lost somebody, where the coaches screw up. Like I'm pretty much, I tell you every time I'm talking to some of you, I have no idea what's out there. None. So the experts that are ranking all these people, they got to be a lot smarter than me because I have no idea how it's going to work, how a transfer is going to help a team, how a transfer is going to hurt a team, how long it's going to take for different teams. There's so many different variables in there that I don't know what that's going to be, but it is different. And I think that players, my biggest worry is exactly what you're talking about. And I think it's going to be a bigger worry 5 years from now than it is now. I think when people graduate and might be used to getting so much money and don't make it to the league, and then they've got to go in the real world, and hopefully some of them will be coaches, teachers, engineers. I wish a couple of them could run for president or be writers so we could improve in those areas, but just kidding. But, I really do think that kids are going to look at it differently. When I read those articles on, like, women's basketball is taking a soaring leap, and then you read articles on the WNBA, how the media is attacking things, and why are they doing that? Well, that's been normal. With more given, more is expected. And I don't know if an 18-year-old is ready to handle all that. I do worry about that. I think we all have, pretty soon there's going to be more people dealing with our kids with mental health issues because expectations will be so high, and some are getting paid more than others, and how that's going to be handled, I'd like to tell you I know. I don't know. I'm positively telling you I talk to my team about it daily. Expectations are going to be different of our team, but expectations are going to be different of you. And so, whether people think it's right, wrong, and what's going on, I always look at things as watch what you wish for, because there's an unintended consequence for something you're given that you're going to have to deal with later on. And what looks like great now doesn't end up great. I mean, there's some quarterbacks that made a lot of money that left 2 and 3 different places that aren't doing very well. And that nothing against them. It just, there's probably others that are, but I think at the end of the day, you're going to find more problems than good. And that's what worries me about this whole thing, and has worried me the whole time I've been involved with the transfer portal, the NIL, and what other incredible things that we've come up with here without much from the coaches, much from the people in the trenches.
Hey, Coach, back here. With a decent amount of new guys and young guys on this team, is there anyone in particular that you've seen that might surprise some people, or you think is maybe a little overlooked going into this season?
I never really looked at it that way. I'm hoping they all surprise all of us. I hope they all get a lot better. But I've had some moments where different guys have looked better than others. There was moments Trey played really well in the summer, but he'd be one guy. I think both of our freshman guards are both guys that have shown some promise. Kerr Tang is an interesting guy. He kind of reminds me of, in fact, I'm going to see Sean Respert tonight get inducted into the Michigan Hall of Fame, and Kerr has got similar qualities of Sean. I know Sam Vincent stopping by practice today. He's a guy that's going to be on I think he's in the homecoming court, or he's the homecoming guy, I should say. And, I was here when Sam was here, and he could get in the lane and get a shot off. And, Jace has some of those qualities. So I'm hoping the whole team surprises me and us and all of us, but they are getting better. And that was one thing we said in the summer. I think Jaden came up, but can we stack days? Everybody can have a good day. You got to stack days to make it consistent, and that's what we're working on now.
Tom, over here to your right again. Last year, I think you guys had the fewest turnovers per game in your program history, and really that couple-year stretch, the turnovers have decreased. I guess as you look back at that, what were maybe the benefits to that, and were there some unintended consequences in terms of pace and pushing the tempo that sometimes would have led to some of those turnovers previously that you'd like to see? I guess where do you see the turnover piece going?
Yeah, I see it all good, and it better go better because lately we've turned the ball over more. I think part of it is number of new people, meaning guards and everything. But I do think turnovers is a big key. I mean, you see it in football all the time, you know. As I've said, and I mean this, and it doesn't matter if it's the Rose Bowl, National Championship, Super Bowl, everybody talks about turnovers. You know, football, it's a little more critical. But in basketball, if you turn it over, you have two types of turnovers: dead ball turnovers or turnovers for touchdowns, which are turnovers that lead directly to a basket. And so those are sometimes 4, 5, and 6 point plays on one play. And so I think turnovers are critical. It's something we're harping on. I have not been thrilled with our turnovers right now. I don't think it's going to be lack of trying to play fast. I'm trying to play faster than we did last year because I think I've got a little more depth. You know, when Jeremy went down, that really hurt our depth there in that position. So I think we're going to still try to play faster, but I think we're going to still try to keep those turnovers. And last year, as you said, year before was better because it was something we have really harped on, and we'll continue to harp on. Because I'd say normally in my career, that wouldn't be an area of our defense and our rebounding were prideful areas. Our turnovers has not been over my career. And so I think I'm mad at myself about that.
Coach, you mentioned the defense and rebounding and physicality being a big part of your program last year. In the last couple of years, rebounding margin for your team has slowly declined. Do you think with this group, we should expect that to kind of bounce back and increase, or kind of where do you think that the team is at from that aspect?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. You know, we went for a little more skill in some areas. I think Jackson Kohler really hurt last year when he went down. He's been our best rebounder in this stage right here. I think we have more size. I think Coop and Shaman has been a very good rebounder for us at 7 foot. You know, it's size does matter sometimes, so that's been a positive. If I've been a little disappointed so far, our wings aren't rebounding as good as they are in our heyday years. Our wings are sometimes our best rebounders. Now, we couldn't quite do that because we played very small a lot of times with AJ, and sometimes even how we started with AJ, Jaden, and Walker. I mean, that was a small lineup. We're going to be bigger. Number one, Jaden's bigger. Number two, I think we'll be the same at the point, but our wing will not only be bigger, but I think we'll be more athletic in a lot of ways. So I'm hoping our wings add to that. And the big question mark is, Book's got to rebound more. He's gained weight, he's gained strength, and now he's shooting the ball very well, and now he's got to rebound better.
Tom, you mentioned the end of the COVID year era. What did you think about it then? What do you think about it now? And how tricky has that made roster management?
Yeah. The COVID era, as I look back, I think we might have made a mistake. I think it was all in good intention that kids didn't get a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, right? I mean, that was the big reason for it. We played 90% of the season. We did not get to play in the conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. And so they gave everybody another year. And it sounded fair and good, but when you added that with the NIL and the transfer portal, it's been an absolute chaos, And then we were starting to play against men as old as Fred, and that was a problem because they were a lot better shape and they were better players, but that really did create a problem, and everybody started getting old, and there was that regime. Now it's been interesting because I don't know, they thought NIL-wise, go spend your money and get an instant guy. Some teams did that. I don't think it worked for a lot of teams, but some teams it did. So it was chaos, and these are all new things that, you think of 30 years experience, 42 years for Mike Krzyzewski, 38 years for Roy Williams, all the different guys, Rick Barnes, and they have all this experience, and then they enter into something that is new territory. They have no experience in it. And that's been a semi-hard adjustment for everybody to make, including the players. And as we look at the transfer portal, and I'm not going to get into all of it, but I was talking to a guy today whose son kind of got, he was developing fine, and all of a sudden there was some pressure on the coach, and so it's going to be a sophomore and, going to start his junior year, and they bring in a couple of guys because, so now he doesn't get a chance to develop. You wonder, I always hear it's good and players should be able to go and do what they want to do, but they affect other players' lives. And so I think it's, to be honest with you, I still think it's a mess, So don't be one of those people that say Izzo's not going to adjust to it. I'm going to adjust to whatever I got to adjust to. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. And the reason I say I don't have to like it is because I am big. I'm just the opposite of what people think. I am big on the student athlete. I care about the student athletes. There's a lot of people that are involved in that. If I can make a rule in journalism that helps you and it hurts the other 6 people, to me that's not a good rule. And I think there is a lot of that going on. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people making decisions for the wrong reason. And I don't know where that's going to go. I really don't care anymore. I'm not going to be on those committees that are working our butts off to figure out what's right and wrong, and nobody listens to them. Those are bad committees. I've been on a bunch of those. So I'm going to do my job the best I can do my job, and I'm not going to give up on necessarily trying to help the game. The game has given me so much. I'm going to always give back to the game, but nobody's listening. We don't make any decisions. Like, I get some guys that call me and say, I got pro guys that call me and say, what are you guys doing, man? You're screwing up the game. What are we doing? We have nothing to do with that, and we don't. So, yes, I'm critical of the way things happened, and I think that there's a lot of people that made mistakes on it, and this is what we're left with. So, when in Rome, do like the Romans, and that's what we're going to try to do the best we can do it.
Tom, over here. You've talked a lot about letting these guys decide playing time based on performance. And it seems like more than recent years, you've got sort of a puzzle to fit together. You can see a lot of different possibilities and a lot of different ways to go. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of how different that is than the year ago, and sort of where how your mindset shifts daily to ideas and possibilities for different lineups and other things?
Yeah, I mean, we do have depth, quality depth, but some of that means maybe not an eliteness on the other end of the depth. And so you got more players, but, like I said, I've been around where that's worked good for us too. I am going to have some possibilities of going big, real big, going small, real small, and different things will work for different games. But I think the hardest thing of planning right now, I have no idea what's out there, and neither does anybody else. There are so many teams that have so many different people. I mean, so many different ones that you just don't know what you're going against yet, and that'll determine some of the reasons on what you do. And I think everybody else is in the same boat, so it's not uneven. It's just when I look at rankings or when I look at people ask me about different teams, there are some teams I say, wow, they got more talent than an NBA team. I've said that before, and that doesn't mean, it leads to winning. So we're going to adjust as we go, probably. I think, as I tell my players, every practice right now is important. Every exhibition game is important. Every non-conference game is going to be important. And as we put the puzzle together, the pieces, I think there's enough pieces there to be damn good. And whether they all mesh together, that's what the next period of time is going to determine.
I wanted to ask you about Jackson and his ability to, the green light from three that he seems to have now, and what that would do for his game and your offense and your flexibility if that's something that becomes a consistent threat.
Well, I think we have, we can play Jackson at the 4, we can play Jackson at the 5, we can play Book at the 4, and both of them can really shoot the ball. I mean, Jackson has improved. Now, he improved last year, but the 2.5 months he was off, was another factor, and maybe winning or losing, those 4 or 5 games that, I think there were 5 games we led in the last 4 minutes. And I think this could help that a lot. I think we could go with lineups in there of more shooters even, But I'm not looking at Jackson. Jackson has been our best rebounder so far. Him and Coop's been pretty good, and Shimon has been very good. And so we still need Jackson. He's got the best post moves on the team. He is a very versatile player right now that I think is really driven to accomplish something. I bet you if you ask the coaches or the players, he has been, if I get back to your question about surprise players or someone, he is a lot different player than he was a year and a half ago. And I think that's going to help us a lot too.
Real quick, do you have an idea of when Gehrig might be back in the mix before the season, or is it?
Yeah, and and Gehrig, he was the one guy that really does shoot the ball really well, but we thought the knee injury was going to be real serious. So it's been tough, but it hasn't been real serious. So I think he is going to be back in a couple of weeks. I really do. I think he thinks he could start practicing next week. I think it'll be a little longer, but getting him back just gives us another weapon, gives us another specialist, a guy that can really shoot it with some size.
Also want to ask you about Xavier. You've talked a lot about him adding the weight and adjusting to that. I'm wondering where else you might have seen growth from him in terms of just motor and just understanding what it takes at this level, what he needs to be for this team now that he's gone through it for a year, with him trying to step into a bigger role as well. What other areas have you seen him make?
The problem when you get older, as Fred was alluding to earlier, you're usually more honest. His motor's still got to go. He's still got to get that motor at a different level. But there's so many areas. He's got his strength at a better level. He's got his weight at a better level. He's got his work ethic. I think he's working harder at a different level. His communication skills. I mean, those of you that have interviewed him and everything, I think he's gone from this shy little guy to a shy big guy to now a more confident. I think when you get stronger, as I said, what happens is sometimes you feel more comfortable in your own skin. The problem always is when you gain or lose any amount of weight, when it was Draymond or Xavier or Mateen way back then, when you lose a lot of weight, and you go through the layup line, and you can say, no, it's okay to dunk now, Draymond. You can dunk now. You're 30 pounds lighter, But then it goes the other way too. When you gain weight, it's okay to be more physical now. You're not going to just get bumped around. You can go in there and fight somebody. You have to learn how to do that. So whenever weight is 15, 20 pounds different either way, I think then there's a learning curve on what it takes to learn how to play with that new weight. And that is probably the last big step Book has to take now. You can play more physical. You can play more. We get glimpses of it here and there, but he's running harder. Right now, we looked at since practice started, he's shooting like 45% from the 3, which is phenomenal. He's really shooting the ball well in our live stuff. But make no mistake, consistent motor will be the next chapter of the book.
Tom, back here. I just want to ask, as you approach 30 years now, how have you changed as a head coach, and what's it been like adjusting to
Gotten
different?
soft. I've let everybody make me soft, you know, like I'm so looking forward to Monday and Tuesday, because Monday and Tuesday there's no school. We're having two-a-days. You know, those are like illegal now. You know, you can't do things you used to do, and it really bothers me too. I think we've created that, and you know what? I shouldn't let it affect me. I think what affected you was what went on here, and then the COVID. You know, that was a tough time, and it made everybody look at everything a little differently. I got to keep remembering what the greatest players, whether it be Cleves telling me something, or Magic telling me something a couple weeks ago still, that great players want to be pushed beyond belief. So if you don't want to be a great player, get the hell out of here. It's pretty simple. But the great players want to be pushed. The great students want to be pushed. The successful people want to be pushed. You know, it's our society that's gotten soft. And so, you know, I got to make sure I find a way to adjust. I mean, it's never going to be like it was 20 years ago. But it shouldn't be that much different either if you want to keep this thing at a championship caliber.
I want to follow up. What's the difficulty in adjusting with different generations of young men being differently coached than maybe they were when you first started?
Boy, you get me into philosophical on how I raise my kids. What's different? There's a lot more entitlement. There's a lot more people think they're owed. You know, Tum Tum. I had so many favorite players, but Tum Tum, not the most talented player I had, but every huddle, every day, the end of the year, at the end of the day, he'd say, remember, guys, we don't have to be here. We get to be here. I don't know if many people think it's a privilege to be places anymore, including you and your jobs, you and yours, even me and mine. And it is. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. I mean, when I think of what I've gotten a chance to do, Mariucci and I talked about this before the weekend. It's a privilege. I mean, I didn't earn all that. I worked for it, but I didn't. It's a privilege, and I better look at it as a privilege. And I think there's way too much entitlement. That's what I said when I went back to the UP. We don't have a lot of entitled people up there because not a lot of people have a lot of stuff. And that's good to go back to your grassroots once in a while. And so it is more difficult. I mean, come on. You know, you guys ask questions like you don't know the answers. You just want me to answer so you can write about it. I mean, you went to school. Probably when when you went to high school, if you got in trouble, you went down to the office, your parents probably brought a lawyer in to negotiate the terms with the principal. When I went to school, I went down to the office, got killed by the principal, and then hoped he didn't call my dad because I was going to get double killed. What's the difference? It's a big difference. We do not hold people as accountable. And it's not a lecture, it's a fact. But my job is to make sure I ramp up the accountability a little bit and realize Tom's right. It's a privilege to play here. Not play for me, play at Michigan State. The culture, the school, what all the players before have done. It is a privilege. I had a bunch of coaches came in from Xavier's high school. And first thing they said was, well, your rebounding yesterday, they watched the practice, looked more like the old teams. That's a great compliment, but even a greater insult. And so something's going to change. I promise you that. Something's going to change. And but you shouldn't even have to ask what the difference is. Look at society. A big difference. And to me, most of it is not good. And that's not old school. It's just things that are right or wrong. Another good question by the students here.
Yeah, so again, you've been talking about there's too much entitlement in today's society, and it's also...
Are you part of that?
I hope not.
All right, there you go. Good answer.
And you've talked about, it's much harder to find leaders. What are some of the qualities that you're looking for, in players when you're watching them in high school, out of the portal? And what would you say, what's a recent example of realizing, hey, we've got something here?
Yeah. Well, leaders are guys that, number one, can communicate without phones, without texts. They can communicate boom to boom. They can look somebody in the eye and they can communicate with them. That's a big part. Part of leadership is, do you have the people skills to express yourself? You have to be able to express yourself as a leader. You have to be able to see what I do, and then it's pretty hard for a leader to loaf and then tell everybody else what to do. But I don't like leaders that are just lead by example people, because if you work your tail off and you don't drag somebody else in, you haven't really led anybody, you just took care of yourself. And I think we have that problem right now. Everybody's worried about taking care of themselves. If I play better, I get more NLI money. If I play better, I get this. If I play better, I get that. Yeah, I should have been a boxer. Yeah, I should have been a golfer. Here it's, we got to play better. If we play better, more things happen. If my teammates do a better job, more things happen. If the quarterback is great and we have no receivers, he's in trouble. If the receivers are great and we have no quarterback, the receivers are in trouble. You benefit from people around you. And I think leaders are people that care about more than themselves in an era, in a time when we're a little more selfish, a little more siloed. Fairness, I think COVID has really hurt us in that respect. I'm talking to a group that works from home all the time. But I'm not a big fan of working from home, because I don't think if you don't interact with people, how do you learn how to lead people? How do you rely on people? Some jobs are this way, and that's great, but playing basketball or football isn't one of those jobs, if you ask me. Good question, though.
Coach, another question from me. You talk a little bit about the alumni presence here with players like Magic, Tum Tum, Mateen. What, going forward, do you hope to see from this next generation of players, continuing to support other Spartans? And could you speak on that a little bit?
Really, really, really good question. Probably one of my most feared things I might lose. It is so meaningful for Irvin or Steve Smith or Mateen or Draymond or Jay Rich this year or Tom, or so meaningful, Travis, to come back and tell players the truth. Because everybody lies to them now, because AAU coaches lie to them because they're afraid they're going to lose them. High school coaches lie to them because they're afraid they're going to lose them. Some college coaches do. But players are pretty honest with players. And, man, I heard a couple of those speeches. And I turned 40 after Mateen's speech to the players this year. Probably 35 when I heard Draymond speak to him from his heart. That is a valuable asset. And it's valuable to my program here. But that would be selfish if I'm just worried about my program. It was valuable for those individual players. Like if I brought in the best writers in America and I had them sit down with all of you and give you some advice. Not that these guys aren't, or not that, but when you get people that made it to the level that you want to make it to, if it's writing for the New York Times or whatever it is, I don't know what goal of a writer is. I look around, I don't know what the hell the goal of a writer is, just kidding. But I think if I did that and you had that at your fingertips a couple times a year and you had that person on speed dial whenever you wanted to talk to them, wouldn't that be priceless for you? That's what I got. I really do have that. I don't want to lose that in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know, you know, if a kid has been at 3 different schools, if they're going to have that same thing. I don't know. I mean, if you have a real good base, you still can absorb some of that. But what could happen 5 years down the road? I don't like the looks of the picture or the movie I'm seeing, but maybe I'm wrong. But right now, that is a very valuable piece of Michigan State basketball, but a very valuable piece of the players that play here that get to get that knowledge from the horse's mouth, you know, not mine. From players that have done it, that have walked the hallways, that have gone to classes, that played in the G League, moved their way up to the NBA, or whatever direction they went. That is valuable. And I hope that when I'm gone, they don't lose that. I really do. A couple more, they said? Yeah.
Coach, you mentioned Cohen quite a bit here. What, in your view as his coach, what's the highest you see him as far as on the court, and what has he done in the offseason to eventually get there?
The highest I see him on the court is pretty high. So when I'm sitting there, I'm usually looking up at his feet instead of his body. But I think I know what you mean. You know, some of it is all going to be determined as he increases his range and his shot. You know, I mean, we all know that. I mean, there's no secret. He knows it. Everybody knows it. He has worked very hard on that. He's worked harder on putting the ball on the floor, getting into the paint. He's worked harder on his free throw shooting, become a better free throw shooter. Right now, tonight, I'm a little mad at him because he's a very good rebounder, and he kills our guys in practice. And he did not rebound and didn't go enough up north, you know. And so he has to be a guy that plays at a high intensity. He's in great shape. He's done a great job with his body. He is, I mean, him and Jay Rich are right there, you know. I mean, and Jason was special. He was special when he got to the NBA. And I think this kid has a chance. He's a great kid. I just love him. I mean, and yes, do I wish he'd shoot it a little better? Of course. Is he working on it? Yes, he is. Has he gone from liking, loving the game to loving, living the game? Yes, he is. I think that'll determine, you know. He runs the lane now as good as anybody I've had in a while, and a great finisher. So we'll see what happens as time marches on here. But he is definitely making progress. We want his basketball skills to go along with his athletic ability, because his athletic ability is at an elite level.
Anything else, guys?
So I'm supposed to wrap it up. Well, you know what? It has been 30 of these, and I do feel honored and privileged to have the chance to be here more years than 95% of the coaches in the country are at their institution. I want you to know that I think we're going to be a real good team. I really do. I think it's going to take this preseason to get some things straightened out, as it is for a lot of teams. I think the adjustment of the new league will be fun. I do. It'll be nerve-wracking at times, but you all get to go some places. Fred, you'll look good on a surfboard in California, so that'll be fun, and you're welcome. But I do think we have some, it's a whole nother world, and so you say, well, why don't you approach everything that way? There's some things that are still, I'm always looking at what's best for the student athlete. And I promise you, a little accountability, a little discipline. When the going gets tough, don't be bolting all the time. Fight through some things. Learn how to do that. I think I got a bunch of guys that have. That's why I've had very few defections. And I'm proud of that. I'm pleased with that. Hopefully I'm going to use that to my advantage. So you all been good. Hopefully you had a good summer. I'm looking forward to maybe getting on track too with a lot of meetings, maybe having a dinner like we used to back in the good old days. I'm going to bring some of the good old days back. And hopefully that helps in all ways, shape, and form. So let's do what we do here. It's a football weekend. Let's go to the football game, enjoy the other sports, and enjoy Michigan State. I think our new president's got us on an incredible path. I see a lot of great things that are going to happen, and it's our job to support them and make sure those do happen. So have a good day. Enjoy our players and see what they say that is contradictory to what I say.